Oh,
Good morning, good evening,
good afternoon.
good afternoon. How are you?
Just about kind of closing the workday.
Yes.
Good evening.
Properly?
Nice way to close with you.
Okay, I you now can hear you.
I'm just gonna make the volume a little bit higher for us. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I
Okay,
love
great. Nice.
wonderful.
That's good.
3 years.
So
We meet 3 years.
yeah, yeah. It's been
It's good to
3 years.
see you again.
Happy to see you too. Well, I have been
Which
seeing you.
course? You haven't seen me in 3 years. No, which course did you attend? Was it
Mar
January or March?
March 2019.
March. Oh wow.
Yes.
Amazing. And
That's
where are you based now? Like right now, where are you in the world? Are you in Spain or Portugal?
in Spain. Yeah.
You're in Spain.
In,
Nice.
Which part of Spain?
in the south. I am in Cadiz.
Oh
Nice.
wow.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having us on this live.
Thank you to you for joining. Yeah, we are, as you know, from ASIP, we are promoting bamboo in Spain, in Portugal, and Europe. And considering that you have been promoting bamboo with BambooU, I think for more than 10 years already, right? So we wanted
A
to hear.
little bit less with
Ah,
BambooU, yeah.
BambooU
all,
has been promoting it since 2016,
Yeah.
but it
Okay.
really grew out of a journey that I would say officially started in about 2008,
8, yeah.
2007, 8, yeah.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, it has been a long journey. Actually, most of the people on live will know about you, but I think that it will be good to introduce a little bit of how you started this journey. Like, so you started Maria and Orin as founders of Cool Farm first, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
N-
I think probably Oren could probably maybe set the scene with like what kind of the cuckoo farm grew out of, because there's this kind of whole history of the green school, and then the cuckoo farm kind of grew out of that.
Exactly, because Cool Farm is next door to the Green School, and
Yeah.
so maybe you would like to explain Orin a bit.
Yeah, sure. So basically, um, I came back to Bali in 2012 after living abroad for about 12 years. I grew up here, left, went to school, university, spent a little bit of time in California. And then my sister was getting married in 2012, and I came back for her wedding and never really left again. And got a job pretty quickly making a garden for somebody because I was spending a lot of time learning about sustainability and about regenerative landscaping and agriculture techniques. And so someone wanted a permaculture garden, and they found out I was, and there weren't, at that time, there wasn't very many options, I guess. So they're like, oh, you've done permaculture. Okay, you should make the garden. And so one project led to another, and pretty soon I had a small team. And my sister was employing me and my team to do a lot of the landscapes for her projects. And then Maria came along in 2013, so
I always
a
forget
year and
the
a half
year.
later, or a year later, and we weren't working together originally, but then I I really needed a good reason to get her to stay, uh, and and luckily we were both interested in sustainability, and so we started the Kuku Farm together as a place really to learn more. We were very young. I knew what I knew. She knew what she knew. I was really lucky that she had a background in marketing because I'm not very good at the whole marketing thing, and finding ways to make you know sustainability and and farming and living a simpler life more attractive to people, that's a big part of being able to convince people to come and take courses with us. So we developed a farm where we would host different experts from all over the world to come teach us about different elements related to permaculture and sustainability and DIY learning. And so that was the beginning. And very quickly we realized that being the bamboo mecca, we folded to family pressure, is the honest truth, where they were like, you have to run a bamboo course. And we were trying to do our own thing. We're like, no, we want to learn about all these other things too. And we realized that we could eat our cake and have it too. And we ran a bamboo course after realizing Alora was like, everybody keeps asking me, how do you build with bamboo? She's like, I'm busy with my professional projects. I don't know how to teach all these people. Can you run courses. Why don't you do a bamboo course? And so we did. We ran our first course in collaboration with the AA. And we got a lot of help from various different people. And it was so much fun. We just had like the biggest blast of our life. It was like one of those moments where, you should have listened to your parents. That was...
It's almost like there was like this kind of bubble that was building up, and there was all this interest coming in because people were seeing the work that Orin's sister Laura was doing with the BambooU, and the buildings that her team were building over at the Green School and at the Green Village, and they were just so inspired and fascinated by these beautiful bamboo buildings, and they were asking, if people wanted to learn how these buildings were built and how they could build maybe something similar. But we were very much on our own track, on our like permaculture track. But then eventually we decided to, there's interest, let's lead a bamboo course. And we, as Orin mentioned, we did the first one with the AA, and we had 40 people. We announced the course and then we had 40 people coming.
We thought we'd have 10, we're like, well, it's only like a month and a half away. It'll probably be 10 people. And it wasn't promoted that well. But all of a sudden, it's like 40 people were full. Oh my God, what are we going to do with all these people? Wrangling different people to bring. And everybody had so much fun. And it was a little bit nuts. We designed and built an entire structure with students involved in about 24 hours. So we designed it in 24 hours, and then we built most of it within 5 or 6 days. And it's still standing today. So,
what is this structure?
So
the sugar shack.
Yeah, it's where we make the coconut sugar on the farm. So BambooU has lived before we built the BambooU campus on the cuckoo farm. So originally it was one of the courses that we were running as part of the farm before we spun it off into its own brand. And it's definitely one thing that like we look back on, and it was incredible. It was amazing the way that we used to run the courses at the very start. But we've definitely become a little less naive and a little bit more intelligent now, the way that we run the courses. And it is not sustainable to have people design the structure that they are then going to build in that same course, because the design to build time frame is just crazy.
Yeah, you need more than one day.
Yeah.
First lesson.
Yeah.
First lesson. Great. So yeah, and I think that something that I would like to know from you, because you have been explaining about Cool Farm and all the movement, but from my experience as a BambooU alumni, and being there in the Cool Farm, being familiarized with different permaculture aspects, I found it extremely inspirational, because you connect bamboo with the permaculture, with other concepts. So I will actually even say that maybe you are promoting a lifestyle, a philosophy, and actually somehow related with
it's the secret. We don't tell anyone that. Now, the amazing thing about BambooU is that people are coming to learn about bamboo. It's a very specific thing. They're not coming necessarily to learn about sustainability, even though I think people who are drawn to bamboo as a material definitely value that about the material, that it grows very quickly, it can be harvested and then regrow and then decompose. So there's definitely that, but they're not necessarily coming, they're not coming to learn about permaculture. They're coming to learn about how to build with bamboo. It's very specific. But the thing is, the BambooU lives within this ecosystem that we've created, which is the farm. And so there's an organic farm, an organic garden. And even though, yes, I lead a tour of the farm maybe on the first day of the bamboo workshop, but apart from that, we're not talking really about these like permaculture solutions or about these bigger environmental issues, but it's there, it's visceral. People can feel it. They can see that there's gardeners harvesting lettuce and tomatoes and bananas and bringing them over to the kitchen, and then the kitchen is then turning that into their lunch, and students are eating what they can see in the garden, and they're being served on beautiful baskets and banana leaves. And then we ask students to then take that food to the compost, and they can see the animals running around and people climbing coconut trees and turning, what they harvest into coconut sugar. There's all these things happening in the environment of where BambooU is taking place that inevitably people feel that. And so I think in like during breakfast time or lunches or dinners or after dinner, these conversations are coming up. People are talking about things like permaculture, or a conversation will start up about bees or mushrooms or all these other things that are, related to permaculture, but it's not because we're talking about them. It's just because people can feel it and see it, and it's kind of viscerally there. So I think absolutely, BambooU grew out of that same vision, to connect people to these natural systems. So it's definitely there. It's just not so explicit, which I find kind of really cool. I think sometimes it's a surprise for people, like they're not expecting to have these deep and meaningful conversations about the state of the world and social issues and our food systems and our water systems. But it does happen during a bamboo course, which is really awesome.
I love it.
We live in a time in history where because of the systems that we live in, a lot of the actions we have on a daily basis, including us, are degenerative, in the sense that they lead ultimately to less diversity, and less resources, and a less bright future for humanity. And so we really need to rapidly start giving examples for people to see of how we could live regeneratively. And bamboo is one of those champions, one of those tangible things. And there's a lot of them. Bamboo is not the only one. All over the world, and it's this wonderful marriage of looking at things from the past and combining them with innovations for the future, and doing it in a really intentional way that leads to really helping humanity become a regenerative force on the planet, which is really challenging. We have so many billions of people who need to live and need to live well. And how do we do that in a way that also supports future generations? It's an enormous task, and everybody needs to get involved in making that happen.
Definitely. And you help making people want to be doing that thing. So, and now I would like to talk about a bamboo architecture with you. And the bamboo architecture, most of the bamboo architecture that is built in tropical climates, like in Indonesia. And then there are specific design considerations that are explained in BambooU. You teach traditional techniques, also traditional local techniques. I would love to know, how did this local wisdom influence your work?
That's a great question. I feel like there's so much richness in every traditional culture on the planet, or every indigenous culture. And often it's either displaced or marginalized or seen as irrelevant. And in the bamboo industry, it's the same. Most of the movement for the future of bamboo is linked to how do we make it into an efficient and standardized product that will have the same strength and the same qualities in every context and can be used anywhere. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, that we are taking on that challenge of taking a round, hollow, curving, tapering pole and turning it into a floorboard. There are places and contexts where that's extremely good. That will save a lot of hardwood forests, and it's an extremely durable material. However, when you're in a place like Bali, where there's such a connection with making and craft, to not support that, in my opinion, is just not the right thing to do, because not only are you marginalizing something that needs to be supported, but you're also creating a future where that will no longer exist. So if we don't invest in the craftspeople, and if we don't use the merits and the gifts of the place that you're in, and the place is not just about the trees and the hills, it's also about the people.
Yeah.
So we are heavily influenced by Balinese culture.
Yeah.
And
what I would add to that is that we hope that the students who are coming, even if they don't necessarily have bamboo where they are, that they will see this kind of local tradition and this local craft being elevated in this way, and it will help inspire them to look at the local materials in their area and to see what the craft is, and what materials are wanting to speak from that place. So even though we're speaking about bamboo, I know that for myself personally, I was attracted to bamboo because of the beauty, but also because it felt like it belonged here. And it was so incredible to see a material that's kind of marginalized, but so intertwined to the local culture being elevated and used in this way, that when I went back home, and I'm from Europe, I'm from a little island in Malta. So when I went back to Malta, it actually helped me not look for bamboo there, but look at what we had locally available there and what was our tradition. And for us, it's these beautiful houses of character made out of limestone, and value that and say, okay, well, it helped me look at, okay, where are the traditional skills, where are the craftspeople, and how can we use those in the built environment? So we do have a lot of people coming who from places that they don't have bamboo growing necessarily, but they're taking these kind of design principles and this way of doing things and perhaps applying them to a completely different context, which I think is really nice. But I think bamboo has a lot to teach, that can be mirrored in different contexts.
Yeah, and it really it needs, as long as you're building round pole bamboo construction, craftsmanship is a really important part of it, because there's very little standardization in a bamboo pole. Every pole is a little bit different. And so craftsmanship is really important. And if you embrace that difference as an opportunity to create really beautiful things, you end up with really incredible, beautiful things in the environment. And if you insist on prioritizing technology and lowering labor into your built environment, you will end up with a very different product. And its craft is in a large part been displaced by technology. And I think at BambooU, we're trying to create a space where both have a place, because they're both important. And I mean, think about, it's funny, we talk about bamboo architecture, teaching bamboo we're teaching bamboo architects how to build, but all of this bamboo building and all of this bamboo architecture that has been developed in Bali is definitely involved lots of architects, and I don't want to diminish their role, but it was driven by non-architects who wanted to break the rules of traditional architecture unconsciously, right? It's not like we went out to try and break the rules of architecture, but by having ideas that were based on much more of a craft-centered approach, we ended up doing that. And a lot of architects are really inspired by that because it's opening up new opportunities for them, right? So there's this great kind of edge or this great intersection where we get to really push, what does the human habitat get to look like? I don't believe, we talk a lot about natural habitat for animals, but what is humanity's natural habitat? I don't believe that it's a linear, modular box system where we stack lots of people on top of each other because it's the most efficient thing to do. There's what is our habitat? And I believe that beauty and creativity and craft need to be part of our human habitat.
Definitely. I remember something that you said, I think you were the one who said that for architects, you need to, I'm an architect, and you said you need to unlearn what you have learned in architecture school to learn how to use bamboo.
And Laura says that, yeah.
We got it from the architects.
It's actually it was feedback from the architects working at Ibuku. They felt like they needed to unlearn a lot of what they learned to be able to work with bamboo.
You need to change the approach totally. You need to change. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then I would like to also know, because you have been welcoming students from all over the world in many of these places, as you mentioned, it's very strange to see a bamboo structure, or maybe they may not have bamboo. So how do you see this the growing interest in bamboo in Europe? Do you experience like a growing interest in the past courses and more people from Europe coming up, like me, for example?
Europe has this rich history with wood. And, Europe has this rich history with craft, actually, as well. And I think that even though bamboo doesn't grow in Europe indigenously or endemically, it's providing a really important solution where it's allowing that connection with wood to continue in a much more sustainable way. People say, well, it's not very sustainable because it's in Europe and bamboo isn't from Europe. I mean, on one level, if they have access to local, sustainably harvest, timber, or even like really good timber that comes from a selectively logged area that's closer to home, okay, they're right. Maybe don't pick bamboo first. But if your alternative is concrete, aluminum, steel, plastic, and glass, which is what most people in Europe have to build out of, incorporating bamboo to displace some of those things is absolutely sustainable, especially when you get into conversations about hardwood and engineered bamboo products. It's just basically a no-brainer. If you have access to sustainably sourced hardwood from Europe, yes, that's a great thing to start with, but there isn't enough of it to meet the demand in Europe because of, people like having wood and also that the alternatives aren't that much better. So if you're going to get hardwood that's ripped out of the rainforest, either in South America or Indonesia or Africa, bamboo is absolutely a good alternative. And it's harder a lot of the times than most hardwoods. So if you get an quality engineered bamboo floor, for example, a lot of the times it's actually a better product. So it's not just about the sustainability, it's also about the durability of that product. Round pole construction in Europe, I don't know that that's the best option. I feel like there are definitely contexts where it's appropriate. I feel like when you get into furniture, there's a lot of places where it's very appropriate. When you get into interiors, there's a lot of places where it's very appropriate. Maybe even small structures, things that are portable. There's a bigger thing going on, at least at BambooU, beyond just the materiality of what we're using. We're also looking at, you know, what does it mean to co-create your home and your environment? So much of the modern world has segregated the end user from the process of making a home. And traditionally, we got together as communities to make our homes. So we have this kind of deeper learning, and one place, one avenue where that still exists is when you get into making things for festivals, making things as a community project for some kind of a community center, or where you're doing pavilions and art pieces. There's an intangible value there that I think is really important.
Yeah, so I think we have a lot of people coming from Europe to take the online course, but also the in-person course in Bali. And I think it's also driven by this feeling of like disillusionment in like the built environment currently, and seeing what's happening here as a source of inspiration and curiosity to like, what's the design thinking? What are the values behind that? Like, who's driving these beautiful buildings? And people wanting a little kind of taste of that and to understand what it's all about. And then, yes, maybe then taking those learnings, like I was saying before, and applying them to perhaps a different material that's more appropriate. So I think that there is a lot of interest and the interest is growing even in countries where bamboo doesn't grow, because people are inspired to see a material that's a local material being used in such a beautiful, elevated way.
Definitely. And you mentioned engineer bamboo. Are you using or are you planning to use engineer bamboo in BambooU courses? And what do you think about it?
You know, in the sense of a manufactured product that is specifically engineered for certain loads, we are not. But it's not because we don't want to, it's because we don't have access to it here. So the same way that in Europe, it's very difficult to build with round poles for multiple reasons, from regulation to actually just making sure the durability and getting the pole to Europe is not that efficient. Here we have a difficulty. We don't have the level of technology that would support engineered bamboo products. We hope that will change in the future. There's a lot of places. Right now, our most expensive bamboo products are the ones that are flat and square, because it takes a lot of energy on a small scale to go from a round hollow pole to a square solid board. I just started collaborating, and we're opening a franchise of a company called Chop Value, which is really exciting. They have these micro factories where they take bamboo waste. So we're going to use satay sticks and chopsticks, and also a lot of the waste from our factory, and turn that into tiles, which will be an engineered bamboo product. And usually you need to hit a certain scale, and you would need access to a certain amount of bamboo to make that possible. But the microfactory concept that Chop Value developed allows you to do that on a much smaller scale, which is much lower investment, which is really exciting and will open a lot of doors.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. It's the way how it can be optimized, no? The engineer bamboo processing and how the waste, because it's not just about the technology and the use, it's also the waste that is generating and it can be used. And that's actually very interesting how with Chop Value you can actually...
Yeah, it's interesting. So bamboo is an extremely regenerative and renewable resource, but we still have to care for it. It's not bulletproof. We can't just pretend like we can use bamboo indiscriminately and indefinitely, and there's always going to be enough of it. As demand grows, we're already facing situations where we're realizing we have to be much more careful and be much more involved in the process of harvesting the poles.
And growing, yeah.
And so there's two fronts that we need to deal with that if we're serious about being a company that's committed to making sure our buildings have a regenerative impact on the planet. One is we need to have more transparency with our suppliers for how they harvest and when they harvest, and how much they harvest from each area, which is extremely challenging to accomplish. And the other thing is to make sure that we use every pole we get 100%, and we don't waste anything. So those are the two elements that we need to focus on. And so with Chop Value, we're starting to tackle one of those elements. And it's not just the waste we create, right? We could be a waste plus company where we're not just using our full pole, but we're also collecting bamboo waste that has been thrown out of the community and would otherwise be burned.
Yeah, interesting. And yeah, I have been considering the what you mentioned about harvesting. It's key. I have been working in different contexts where people use bamboo, but because they need to use it in crises, in conflicts, and when there is a lot of displacement of population. And yeah, they of course they go and take the bamboo, but it's not harvested properly. If they don't know how to do it properly, then the bamboo will disappear and the plant will be damaged. So this is key to ensure the sustainability of the
totally
supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, it's like anything.
And you mentioned also about you just mentioned about that bamboo is not endemic in Europe, but it grows, and actually it grows in different countries and in Spain and Portugal too. But it is a very controversial topic, and I would like to know from your perspective, what do you think about planting bamboo in Europe?
You know, I'm not an ecologist, so I don't know what the overall impact is. I definitely would be careful. But how many other things are serving Europe in Europe and have been doing so for quite a long time that are not quote unquote endemic? You know, it's a really challenging, just on a philosophical level, it's a really challenging thing to say that we should only be planting things that are endemic, because most of the vegetables we eat and a lot of the other things that are in Europe already are not necessarily endemic. You know, Italy, tomatoes is not endemic to Italy, for example. You know, and that's just, there's lots of, the potato is not from, you know, not from Europe.
And it's saved famines in Europe. It saved people's lives at a specific moment. So
it caused a lot of progress and advancement in certain ways. So it's very hard to say, okay, we shouldn't do it at all. That being said, when you look at bamboo, a lot of people in the West immediately think about running bamboo, which is invasive in the sense that it can grow for quite a distance and come up somewhere else. But there's a whole world of clumping varieties of bamboo that are often much more productive. They're a little bit harder to harvest, but they're much more productive as a plant. And if you focus on clumping varieties, and if you're careful about how you introduce it into environment, I think just like anywhere else, it can have a highly regenerative impact. But we're not looking at bamboo in the same way in Europe. We're not looking at it as a, you know, chance to restore a natural habitat. We're looking at it as a resource and a chance to capture carbon and to utilize, you know, degraded agricultural systems that were already not growing endemic species. So it's definitely, in my mind, a good idea, but there are a lot of things that need to be considered that are not things I fully understand. But I think it's hard to say that it's absolutely not a good idea, because you're you know, it's a little bit idealistic, I guess, maybe to think that we should go back to a place where everything should be endemic, because things have already made a massive exchange in the last 400 years. And the ecosystems, in my opinion, are going to have to recalibrate on some level. So how we do it is very important to think about. If we, like palm oil is a really good example of a really great plant that have been used in a very poor way. So we have to guard against bamboo being used in that way.
Yeah, and actually something that you just mentioned about, and I think that in Europe, the most of the people, or in general, the most of the people think about bamboo and as an invasive, and they know, they are familiarized with running bamboo species, and they see them
that's
in
right.
but it goes to the neighbor and it's impossible to and there are different type of bamboo, and the clamping bamboo is not very common to see here, and people are not familiarized with that. So this is a message that I keep repeating to people every time.
And also, in a place like Spain, you have a very dry spell, if I understand. In the dry season, in the summer, it's very dry.
Yeah.
And a lot of those running bamboos, if they're not supported by humans, I don't think they'll last. You know, I think they rely on human intervention. I don't know, and again, I'm not an ecologist, but I don't know that they run wild necessarily in that context, right?
Yeah, there are some areas where there is more humidity and more, and that there are some microclimates. So, and where and I have seen it wild and across the river and in amazing context, like really, really beautiful bamboo forests. So it's, but
so
yes, yeah.
Don't plant anymore and over harvest what is there.
Yeah. Do the opposite of what you're usually supposed to do.
And then find better species that can be controlled.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is a lot of research and efforts into that, and from ASIP we are also working to mapping these the different bamboo plantations and species that are in Spain and Portugal, and to understand also what are the challenges and the lessons learned in each place. Yeah. In that work actually.
Nice. Exciting.
Yeah, and now more to close up, I would like to hear, because Maria, you mentioned that you are from Malta, Europe, and I don't know if, and actually you are not the only bamboo advocate who is related with Malta, I must say. This is funny that there is more people in Malta, bamboo passionate. And do you have any plans with bamboo there, or do you know if there are any?
Yeah, so it's funny. We had like a kind of funny coincidental story where Orin was connected to somebody from who was involved in Imbar, and he moved to Gozo, which is the sister island of Malta. And he's a big bamboo advocate and is working with a company called BambooU Logic, I believe.
Yeah, he's working.
And he's planting bamboo in Portugal, I think.
Yes.
So I mean, there's kind of little things like that, but I don't see. I mean, for us, we don't have any plans to kind of expand into Europe. Right now, we're kind of pretty focused on what we're doing in Bali, and we've just launched our BambooU online last year, and now the BambooU Espanol online. But there is more and more interest coming in from Europe, which is amazing to see. But I think, like I said, maybe people are seeing how to apply what they learn here in the European context, maybe with different materials. I'm not sure. So yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any specific plans to expand to Europe. But I think that it's really exciting to see that it's defining our expectations of where we're going. Europe's a huge consumer of bamboo already, so I think that it's exciting that there is some movement to look at what might be appropriate to plant there as part of it, because it's a really powerful substitute to hardwood. And I just think like Europe is very urban, and finding ways to bring bamboo as a round pole into the urban context in a way that connects people to that sense of having nature and having something organic in the environment and having texture in the environment is really important. So I'm always excited when we have Europeans come and join, because they're showing us all kinds of ways that it can be used in Europe that we wouldn't have thought of.
Interiors, lighting fixtures, like table. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity actually for it to be used, not structurally, but for decorative elements and furniture and such.
Yeah, like our background here in Bali, it feels kind of like it's become part of the backdrop. You know, it's this particular kind of idea of cutting the cross section and making a shadow with it was developed, I think, by Aldo Landwehr in the early days of when we started using bamboo. and now it's like been copied all over the islands. It's like part of the environment, but and it's not that impressive really. But as soon as you take that to Europe, it becomes a very exotic element that brings, you know, it's a whole other dimension, just because of the context.
Yeah.
And you, well, yeah, you are running the BambooU courses in person. That actually you are starting again next week, I think, or at the beginning of April.
Yeah, basically next week, end of next week.
We got 5 spots left.
Oh, wow. That's nice. Yeah, people were looking forward to be able to go back.
Starts April 8th.
But then during the pandemic, you switched, as you mentioned, Orin, to BambooU 9, which is really, really, I have been going through the course and it's amazing. It's super deep, and also you invite bamboo experts from all over the world that are coming sometimes to the in-person training, but are also giving talks in the BambooU.
Online, yeah.
And now, as you mentioned, you have launched BambooU Español, which is so.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you have, you just mentioned that you don't have any specific plans, but maybe not within Spain, in Europe, but maybe in other Spanish-speaking countries. Are you planning?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll go wherever we're invited, basically. If we're invited somewhere to go any of the course, we totally, yeah, consider it. With BambooU Español, it's also the online course right now is in Spanish. So we're not yet doing an in-person course in Spanish. And we've started with just the model making course, and that's just 4 weeks. And it's like a little bit of a trial for us, because there was a lot of people who are Spanish speaking taking the online immersion and asking for either subtitles or Spanish facilitators. So we definitely identified that there was a need for that. So we're just starting with the model making course right now, and hopefully we can kind of develop that into leading the full online immersion in Spanish. And maybe in-person courses, why not?
There's a huge part of the world who speak Spanish who are in a context where bamboo is really appropriate. So we're looking at like, okay, you know, what happens if we offer something to them? You know, we were getting a lot of requests, you know, I don't speak very good English, but I really want to take your course, you know, and they're Spanish speakers. So it was kind of the first other language besides English that we felt was appropriate to start looking into. And the online courses really allowed us to reach such a broader audience of people, which has been really exciting. And we, you know, we never thought that our online course would do so well, because we were such a hands-on course.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the other thing is with Spain, it's really interesting, because Spain wasn't the first place that I would have thought that there's a lot of interest for bamboo. But I went to Barcelona and actually, you know, realized that Spain and you know, Spain has this rich history with architecture that I wasn't that aware of. And when I was there, I was like, oh my God, like, and with Gaudi, it was like, wow, like this is like bamboo architecture without the bamboo.
Yeah.
And so I was really impressed to see that. And I realized that, you know, there's this really rich culture that as an English speaker and somebody who's, you know, basically from Canada and the US, where we don't really have much of a architectural history in the same way. It was really interesting to me to see these parallels in creating these much more organic spaces that are actually really similar.
And I think this kind of links back to what I was saying originally, is that's where the draw comes, I think, for people who have this like cultural heritage in some way, of this beautiful organic architecture, or architecture that speaks to a place, and then seeing that in a different context, even though the material is different, but it speaks to the same values and the same kind of principles. So that's where the draw is. Yeah, that's where the overlap is.
The craft is alive there in the context, right? And even the city planning in you know, it's very clear, you know, that there's a big movement for like urban planning and really like goes back to that. How do you make human habitats, right? A lot of the cities that I go to where I, you know, originated, they're designed for cars, right? They're not designed for humans. But Europe is still designed for humans because it was designed before the car.
Yeah,
definitely. And
yeah. So yeah, the interest kind of goes beyond just the bamboo. It's people really wanting to reconnect with what it means to be human, what it means to live in a space, and what makes us feel good. And what makes us feel good is being in organic spaces and being in spaces where there are natural elements around us that speak to us, because we are of the same stuff. We are also nature. So
totally,
yeah.
totally agree.
We're all made of stardust.
But I love it. Yes, so yeah, I'm just looking forward to see you here.
Yeah, I mean, Orin might be coming to Spain soon.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, I'm going
Maybe.
to France, but we'll see. Maybe Spain.
Okay, yes, this.
I need an invitation.
The invitation is made. Yeah, we are here the most of we are here between Spain and Portugal, and we are looking forward to welcome you here. We have people in all Spain, in Madrid, in Galicia, Vitoria, and then also me in the south, and then in Portugal also around Lisbon. So whenever if you come around, you will meet. As it will be easy to meet ASIB members and more people who are joining actually.
Any reason to come back to Europe? So yes.
Yeah, so we are gonna be in touch, I'm sure, and I'm really hoping that we are gonna meet soon here and continue promoting BambooU and this lifestyle and philosophy around the world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
for joining, everyone. Those of you who
Yes.
joined in, and those of you who'll see this later.
Yeah, I don't think that there were any questions or.
I was keeping a little eye out. I don't think so either.
Someone told us to come to Mexico, but
oh yeah, we got an invite to Mexico.
Yeah, you have fights all over the world already.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for joining. Bye.